Before we start, if you enjoy the story, please leave a like and check if you're subscribed. The Vulhan warrior's mistake was assuming the fight was over. Donovan Hayes watched from his knees as the 8-foot insectoid advanced, mandibles clicking. Blood ran hot down his ribs where chitinous claws had opened him shoulder to hip. The crowd roared, 20,000 voices blending into breaking waves. The Krell loomed over him, raising both primary arms for the killing strike. Donovan's hand found what he'd been searching for, a shard of carapace from an earlier kill. He drove it upward into the gap where the Krell's abdomen met its thorax, twisting hard. The creature's victory screech turned to a wet gurgle. It collapsed sideways, twitching. The crowd's roar changed pitch. Some cheered, more booed. Donovan pulled the shard free and let it fall, scanning the crowd with dark eyes. He wasn't their entertainment. He was their reckoning. The gate sealed behind him with a pneumatic hiss. The preparation tunnel stretched ahead, lit by bioluminescent strips. "You're injured," a voice said from the shadows. Donovan stopped. She stepped into the light. Kasara was everything the Vulhan prided themselves on. Tall, elegant, lethal, pale skin, silver hair, fox ears currently pinned back in irritation. Amber eyes studied him with cold dispassion. She wore functional armor that spoke of someone who expected to fight. "I've been injured before," Donovan said. "You were assigned to me an hour ago. I was told you were difficult. They kept trying to make me fight like a Vulhan. I'm not Vulhan." "No, you're a Deathworlder. Your planet's gravity is higher. Your atmosphere toxic to most civilized species. You're here because you're good at violence, nothing more." Donovan held her gaze. "You're limping." Her ears flicked forward, surprise quickly controlled. "Your left leg, old injury, mid-thigh, severed muscle that didn't heal right. And your hand keeps drifting to your hip even though you're not armed. You weren't always a handler." Temperature dropped 10 degrees. Kasara's hand moved to her hip, finding nothing. "You're bleeding out," she said, voice cold. "We should address that." The medical bay was small and sterile. She gestured to an examination table. Donovan sat, and she approached with a diagnostic scanner. "Deep but not vital. You'll need cellular bonding." She reached for his shirt. Donovan caught her wrist. Her skin was cool, smoother than human. She froze. He could feel her pulse, faster than expected. "I can remove my own shirt," he said quietly, releasing her. He peeled the fabric away. Kasara's eyes traveled across his torso, cataloging scars, burns, punctures, bullet wounds. "You've survived a lot." "Survival is what Deathworlders do best." "Survival isn't victory." She selected a dermal regenerator. "In 4 days, you fight a Vulhan warrior, Vrath. 47 consecutive victories. My predecessor believed you needed breaking. I believe you'll be dead within the week, so there's no point wasting effort." "Comforting." "I don't comfort. I prepare fighters for combat." She pressed the regenerator against his wound. "Vrath crushes throats after demonstrating superior technique. What you did today, using the environment, exploiting weakness, that's dishonorable. Vulhan warriors face death with dignity." "And yet you're down here with the disposables," Donovan said. "What happened?" The regenerator stopped moving. "I followed orders, executed the mission exactly as planned. My entire squad died because the plan was flawed, but the plan came from someone important, so I took the blame." "Sounds like we have something in common." "We have nothing in common," Kasara snapped. "You're property. I exist to ensure you fight and die properly." "Then teach me," Donovan said, sliding off the table. 4 days isn't much time." Her ears swiveled forward, then back. "Tomorrow, training yard dawn cycle." "Yes, ma'am." "Don't call me that. I'm your handler. Address me as Kasara or not at all." As he turned to leave, he caught her watching his reflection. Her ears were upright, alert. He looked back. "Hayes, Donovan Hayes." "Hayes, why did you let the Krell get that close?" "Because I needed him to think he was winning. Overconfident opponents make mistakes. That's when you kill them." Dawn came too early. Guards walked him to the training yard, massive, covered in dark sand, equipment hanging from walls. Kasara stood near the center, silver hair braided back. "You're early." "So are you. Time management is the difference between victory and defeat." She drew a practice blade. I need to see how you move. Donovan selected a blade. They faced each other. Ready position. Donovan settled into his stance. She circled. Your stance is too wide. I'm heavier than you. Lower center of gravity. Makes you predictable. She struck without warning. Donovan dropped under it and rolled, coming up behind her with his blade at her spine. The yard went silent. How did you know where I'd strike? Your shoulders tensed. You shifted weight. Your eyes tracked my throat first. He stepped back. You telegraph your intentions. She turned, then attacked again 3 angles, forcing him to retreat. Fast, precise, predictable. On the 7th strike, he stepped inside her reach and locked his arm around hers. They were face to face. You fight like someone who learned from manuals. Perfect form, perfect technique. But fights aren't perfect. Release me. Say please. Her claws extended to his jugular. Release. He let go. She stepped away, then selected 2 more blades and tossed him one. Again, and this time I won't hold back. They trained for 3 hours. By the end, both were drenched in sweat, and something had shifted. Recognition. Enough, Kisara said. You'll need rest. What about Raketh? He's arrogant, believes Vulhan's superiority is self-evident. But you already know how to exploit arrogance, don't you? As guards moved to escort him back, Kisara called out. Hayes, don't die against Raketh. I hate wasting effort on training. Day 3, the preparation room. Kisara helped him into minimal armor. Raketh will test you early, establish dominance. Let him. Let him? Let him think he's winning, make him overconfident. She looked up. You can survive this. Planning on it. The door slid open. Vrath Keldon entered, flanked by guards. The arena master was tall, silver fur marked with scars, ornate robes hiding the predator beneath. How is our human performing? Adequately. Adequately. Vrath circled Donovan. His last 3 fights drew record crowds. Betting pools are massive. He hasn't faced Raketh yet. No, Vrath stopped. Tell me, human, are you afraid? Yes. Good. Fear keeps fighters sharp. He smiled. I've made special arrangements. If your human wins, he earns another year. But if he loses, you'll be reassigned, Kisara. Oh, and one more thing. If Hayes wins, his next exhibition will be partnered. With you. Kisara's ears went rigid. Handlers don't fight in the arena. Disgraced handlers do when I command it. Vrath left. Donovan turned to Kisara. Her hands were shaking. Kisara! Don't. Just go fight. Win or lose, just fight. The call came 5 minutes. Kisara stepped close. Her hand rose toward his face, then fell back. Win. Whatever it takes, win. You already know how to fight dirty. You just won't admit it. Something flickered across her face. Then the guards opened the door, and the crowd's roar poured in. 20,000 Vulhan filled the stands. Across the sand, Raketh emerged, a head taller than Kisara, deep red fur, scars crossing his chest. The bell rang. Raketh closed the distance with terrifying speed. Donovan backpedaled, claws slashed where his throat had been. Raketh pressed. Donovan blocked, dodged, gave ground, looking desperate. The Deathworlder runs. Donovan counted, tracked patterns. Raketh favored his right, his left knee flexed before major strikes. Raketh lunged for a grapple. Donovan stepped inside and drove his fist into that flexing knee. The stance collapsed. Donovan swept both legs. Raketh went down hard. The crowd turned silent. Raketh rolled up, fury replacing contempt. They circled, traded blows, blood flowed. Raketh went for the killing grapple, arms around Donovan's torso. Donovan drove his forehead into the warrior's nose with Deathworlder strength. Cartilage shattered, Raketh's grip loosened. Donovan swept the injured leg again, followed him down, got behind him, arm around his throat. Raketh thrashed, weakened. Finally, his hand slapped the sand 3 times. Surrender. Donovan stood. The crowd erupted, half screaming approval, half stunned silent. He turned toward the tunnel and raised his hand, a small gesture for Kisara. In the tunnel, Kisara pressed her hand against the viewing glass, heart racing. He won. Then Vrath's decree crashed over her. 3 days until they both entered the arena. When Donovan entered, bleeding but walking, he stopped before her. I kept my promise. You did. Now we both get to suffer for it. We'll figure it out. 3 days. We'll train, plan, and win. Today you fought one warrior. Vrath won't make our exhibition that simple. Then we'll adapt. He reached toward her arm, then thought better of it. See you tomorrow, Kisara. Tomorrow. She watched him walk away. Vrath had given them both a death sentence, and they had 3 days to survive it. 3 days to figure out if they could trust each other enough to live. The cell felt smaller after victory. Donovan lay on the sleeping platform, replaying the fight, Rocket's surprise, the crowd's shock, Kisara's hand pressed against the viewing glass. 3 days until they fought together, 3 days until Vrath tried to kill them both. Dawn brought Kisara to his cell personally, unprecedented. She stood in the doorway, still wearing yesterday's armor. You didn't sleep, Donovan observed. Neither did you. She stepped inside. I've been reviewing arena records. Vrath's partnered exhibitions have a survival rate of 8%. Better than expected. Those survivors were paired warriors who'd trained together for years. We have 3 days. Then we'd better not waste time. What do we know? Kisara pulled a data pad from her belt. Vrath announces matchups 12 hours before the fight, but I accessed scheduling patterns. Expect 4 opponents minimum, mixed species. Krell berserkers for power, Volhan warriors for technique. Can you fight Krell? I've killed 3 in combat missions before my disgrace. Your experience gives us an edge. Her ears flicked, surprise at being treated as an equal. We need communication signals. The arena prevents audio coordination, crowd noise, acoustic dampening. We'll need nonverbal cues. They spent the next hour developing a hybrid language of gestures. A shift of weight meant flank left, a hand touching the chest meant regroup. Blade held low signaled defense, high meant attack. Kisara moved through each signal with precision, but when Donovan mimicked her movements, she stepped close to adjust his posture. Her hands on his shoulders, correcting the angle, her fingers against his wrist, demonstrating tension. Each touch lingered longer than necessary. Like this, she said, her breath warm against his neck. Donovan turned his head slightly. Their faces were inches apart, her pupils dilated. Then Kisara stepped back sharply, ears flat. That's sufficient. Training yard in 1 hour. We need actual combat coordination. She left before he could respond. The training yard was empty. Kisara had claimed it for exclusive use. She was already there, stripped to minimal training gear that showed lean muscle and scars he hadn't noticed before. A jagged line across her ribs. Burn marks on her shoulder. Claw marks across her back. We start with basics, she said. You need to understand how I move, and I need to understand your limitations. Limitations? You're a death worlder, stronger in raw power, more resilient to damage, but I'm faster, superior reflexes. We need to use both advantages. She was right. When they sparred, her speed was overwhelming, 3 strikes before he completed 1 attack. But when he landed a hit, even pulled, she staggered. Again, she ordered after he'd swept her legs for the 4th time. You're adapting wrong, Donovan said. You keep trying to avoid me entirely. But in the arena with multiple opponents, you won't be able to avoid everything. What do you suggest? Use me as an anchor. Let me draw the heavy hitters, absorb their attention. You strike from angles they're not watching. That requires trust. Yes. Kisara's ears swiveled back, uncertainty. I trusted my commanding officer. I trusted the mission plan. My squad died because of that trust. Donovan lowered his blade. I'm not your commanding officer. This isn't a mission, it's survival. Both of us are neither. Vrath made sure of that. She held his gaze, then nodded once. They drilled for hours, building choreography from chaos. Donovan engaged imaginary opponents head-on while Kisara circled, striking from blind spots. Then they'd switch, Kisara drawing attention with speed, while Donovan delivered crushing blows from unexpected angles. The training became a dance. They moved around each other with increasing synchronization, anticipating movements, covering weaknesses. When Kisara stumbled, Donovan's hand steadied her. When he overextended, she pulled him back. By midday, they were exhausted and moving as one unit. Water, Kisara said, breathing hard. They sat against the wall, sharing a canteen. The silence between them felt charged. "You asked what happened to my squad," Kasara said quietly. "We were sent to eliminate a rebel cell on a mining station. Intelligence said minimal resistance, but the intelligence was fabricated. The rebels were 20 times our estimated numbers, and they were expecting us." "Why fabricate intelligence?" "Because my commanding officer, Commander Silith, wanted to eliminate me. I'd questioned her methods, pushed back against orders that violated sovereignty law. So she sent me to die and blamed me when it went wrong." Her claws extended, digging into sand. 6 warriors under my command, all dead within 10 minutes. I survived because I retreated instead of dying with honor. "That's not cowardice, that's tactics. Dead officers can't report the truth." "I reported everything. It changed nothing. Silith's family has connections. The truth doesn't matter when power decides otherwise." Donovan understood that calculus intimately. "Why are you telling me this?" Kasara turned to look at him, amber eyes reflecting the lights. "Because in 3 days you'll be the only person in this arena I can trust. And I need you to understand why trust doesn't come easily to me." "I understand." He held out his hand, palm up, "but I'm still asking for it." She stared at his hand. Then slowly, she placed her hand in his. Her skin was cool, her fingers longer than human proportions, tipped with retracted claws. They sat like that, hands clasped, both knowing they were crossing a line the sovereignty would punish with death. "We should continue training," Kasara said, but she didn't pull her hand away. "We should." Neither moved. Then the training yard door opened, and they sprang apart as attendants entered. The moment shattered, but the connection remained. That night, Kasara came to his cell again. No explanation, no pretense. She simply appeared when guards changed shifts. "This is unwise," she said. "Probably. If we're discovered, Vrath will use it against us." "He's already trying to kill us. How much worse can it get?" Kasara laughed, sharp, bitter. "You really don't understand Vulhan culture. What we're doing, what I'm even considering, it's not just forbidden, it's incomprehensible. Vulhan don't form attachments to other species. Our society is built on hierarchy, duty, honor, not this." "What is this?" Donovan asked. She crossed the small cell in 3 strides and kissed him. It was fierce, almost angry, her hands fisting in his shirt, claws pricking through fabric to skin. Donovan's hands found her waist, pulling her closer, and she made a sound low in her throat that was pure need. They broke apart, both breathing hard. "That," Kasara said, "that's what this is, and it's going to get us both killed." "We're already scheduled to die in 3 days." "Then we have 3 days." She kissed him again, slower this time, exploring. His hands traced the unfamiliar planes of her body, the sharp angle of her shoulders, the curve of her spine, the fox ears that flicked with each touch. Her fingers mapped his scars, treating each one like a story. They sank to the sleeping platform together. Donovan's hands found the fastenings of her training gear, and she helped him remove it with urgent efficiency. Her body was lean and alien and beautiful, pale skin over whipcord muscle, marked with the same violence that marked his own. She straddled him, and he ran his hands up her thighs, watching her ears flatten with pleasure. When she lowered herself onto him, they both gasped, the sensation foreign and perfect and consuming. They moved together with the same synchronization they'd found in training, building rhythm, chasing release. Her claws dug into his shoulders. His hands gripped her hips hard enough to bruise. The cell filled with the sound of their breathing, the whisper of skin against skin, the soft, desperate noises neither could contain. When Kasara came, her back arched and her ears stood rigid, and Donovan followed her over the edge, pulling her down against his chest as they both shuddered through the aftermath. She collapsed against him, silver hair spilling across his shoulders, her heart racing against his. "We can't do this again," she whispered. "We won't," he agreed. Neither believed it. She stayed until, just before dawn, curled against his side, her tail wrapped around his leg. When she finally rose to leave, she kissed him once more, soft, almost tender. "Tomorrow we train harder, no distractions." No distractions. But as she slipped out, he saw her touch her fingers to her lips. 2 days left. 2 days to prepare for the fight of their lives. 2 days to pretend that what had happened between them was just physical need and not something far more dangerous. 2 days before Vrath tried to kill them both, and they'd have to trust each other completely or die. Morning brought reality crashing back. Kasara stood in the training yard with her arms crossed, every line of her body radiating military discipline. The woman who'd gasped his name in the darkness was gone, replaced by the handler who'd first called him property. "We have 2 days," she said without preamble. "No more mistakes." They drilled relentlessly. Kasara pushed him through combat scenarios until his muscles screamed. 4 opponents, 6 opponents, imaginary attackers from every angle. Left flank, Krell pattern, pivot, cover high, strike low. Donovan moved, and she was there, her blade passing within inches of his ribs. They were close enough that he could smell her sweat, see the gold flecks in her eyes. "Again, you're a fraction too slow. That fraction kills you." "Then make me faster." She attacked without warning, and this time she didn't hold back. Her blade came at him from 3 angles simultaneously, or seemed to, her speed making it look like she'd multiplied. Donovan blocked, parried, gave ground. She pressed harder, and he saw fury in her movements. He caught her blade on the 7th strike and twisted, disarming her. She flowed into hand-to-hand, claws extending as she went for his throat. He blocked and swept her legs. She twisted mid-fall, landed in a crouch, and launched herself at him again. They grappled, her claws at his throat, his hand locked around her wrist, both breathing hard. "Better," she said, her voice rough. "Is this training, or are you trying to kill me?" "Both. If I can't kill you, maybe the arena won't either." She released him and stepped back. A thin line of blood ran down Donovan's neck. "You're bleeding." "I've bled before." Kasara pulled a medical pack from her belt and approached. Her fingers were gentle as she cleaned the wound. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be. You're right, I need to be faster." "That's not what I'm apologizing for." Her thumb traced his jaw. "I'm sorry for what happens after we win. If we win, Vrath doesn't grant freedom to fighters who embarrass him. He'll find another way to control us. Another fight. Another impossible odds. Then we make sure he can't." Kasara's ears flicked forward. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we survive first, then we deal with Vrath." Before she could respond, the training yard door opened. Yarrick entered, a scarred Vulhan male with mottled gray fur and old burn marks covering half his face. "You're being careless," he said, his voice low. "The guards talk. Vrath has eyes everywhere." Kasara's hand moved to her hip, searching for a weapon that wasn't there. "What do you want, Yarrick?" "To help? Maybe?" He moved closer, limping. "I've been watching the human since his first fight. You're preparing for survival, not just combat. There are people who'd like to see Vrath's arena burn. People who think the sovereignty's caste system is rotten. People who've noticed that a Deathworlder and a disgraced officer might be exactly the spark needed." "You're talking about rebellion," Kasara said carefully. "I'm talking about options." Yarrick pulled a small communicator from his pocket, compact and illegal. "When you win your exhibition, you'll have a choice. Accept whatever scraps Vrath throws you, or take the hand that's being offered." He set the communicator on the equipment rack. "Who's offering?" Donovan asked. Yarrick smiled, the expression pulling at his scars. "People who remember what it means to choose your own path. You have 2 days." He left, and the communicator sat like a live grenade. "We can't trust him," Kasara said. "Can we trust Vrath?" "No, but Yarrick is talking about treason." "The sovereignty already condemned you," Donovan said. "They blamed you for following orders, stripped your rank, and now they're trying to kill you for entertainment. What exactly do you have to lose?" "You," she said quietly. "If we run and they catch us, they won't just kill us. They'll make an example, torture, public execution. I've seen it done to rebels." "Then we don't get caught." "You make it sound simple." "It is simple. We survive the exhibition. Then we decide, stay and die slowly or run and take our chances." Kasara stared at the communicator. "We should destroy that." "We should." Neither moved toward it. The rest of the day passed in a blur of training. They refined their signals, practiced coordinated strikes, drilled until Donovan's body moved on pure muscle memory. By nightfall, they were functioning as a single unit. Enough, Kisara finally said. Rest. Tomorrow is our last day before the exhibition. Will you come to my cell tonight? She was silent for a long moment. I shouldn't. It makes us vulnerable. I know that too. Kisara's ears drooped. Come. She arrived after midnight. This time there was no pretense, no hesitation. She crossed the cell and kissed him with desperate hunger, and he responded with equal need. They made love slowly, savoring each touch, each sound, both knowing it might be the last time. Her claws traced patterns on his skin that would leave marks. His hands memorized every curve, every scar. When she cried out his name, he swallowed the sound with his mouth. Afterward, she lay against his chest, her ear pressed over his heart. Tell me about Earth, she said. Why? Because I want to know where you came from. Donovan stroked her hair, feeling the softness of her ears. Earth is a death world, higher gravity than most inhabited planets, atmospheric oxygen levels that would poison half the species in the galaxy, weather systems that can kill. We evolved fighting everything, predators, disease, each other. Sounds terrible. It's beautiful. Oceans that stretch to the horizon, mountains that pierce clouds, forests so thick you can walk for days without seeing sky. He paused. I grew up on a colony world, but my parents were from Earth. They used to tell me stories about home. Do you want to go back? I wanted to, before now. He tightened his arm around her. Now I'm not sure where home is. Kisara lifted her head to look at him. I've never had a home, just assignments, postings, duties. The sovereignty doesn't encourage attachment to places. What about family? My bloodline is minor, 3 siblings, all serving in different sectors. We were raised in group facilities, trained for military service from childhood. I haven't seen them in years. They'd recognize you. Would they? I'm not the officer who left. I'm something else now. Her fingers traced the scars on his chest, something the sovereignty doesn't have a word for. What's that? Free, or close to it. She kissed him softly. You did that. You showed me that rules aren't absolute, that authority can be questioned. You knew that already. You just needed permission to admit it. She smiled against his skin. They lay together in comfortable silence until Kisara finally stirred. I should go. Dawn comes early. Stay just until dawn. She settled back against him, and her tail curled around his leg. Dawn. She was gone when he woke, but the scent of her remained, and he found a single silver hair on his pillow. He tucked it into his boot, a talisman, a promise. The final day of training was brutal. Kisara pushed them both to the edge of collapse, drilling scenarios until their bodies moved without conscious thought. When they finally stopped, the sun was setting, and the exhibition was less than 12 hours away. We're ready, Kisara said, though her ears betrayed uncertainty. We're ready, Donovan agreed. That night she didn't come to his cell. He understood. She was preparing herself, building the walls she'd need to survive. He lay awake anyway, counting the hours, thinking about Earth and freedom, and amber eyes that saw him as more than a death worlder slave. Somewhere in the arena complex, Vrath was finalizing the exhibition matchups, choosing opponents designed to kill. And somewhere in the shadows, Jarek and his rebels were watching, waiting to see if 2 fighters could become something more. Dawn would bring answers, Dawn would bring blood, and if they survived, Dawn would bring choices that would change everything. Dawn came with the sound of boots in the corridor. Donovan was already awake, already dressed in the minimal armor they'd provided. The door opened, and Kisara stood there flanked by guards, her face a mask of professional neutrality. It's time, she said. They walked through the preparation tunnels in silence. Other handlers and fighters watched them pass, some with curiosity, others with the detached interest of those watching the condemned. The arena's rumble filtered through the walls, the crowd already gathering. In the preparation room, Kisara checked his armor with mechanical efficiency, her hands steady even as her ears betrayed her tension. 4 opponents, she said quietly. Vrath announced it an hour ago, 2 Volhan warriors, 2 Krell berserkers. As expected. The Vulhan are Rekit's squad mates. They'll want revenge. Good, angry opponents make mistakes. Kasara's hands paused on his chest plate, and for a moment the mask slipped. She looked up at him, and her amber eyes were filled with something that looked like fear. "I've been in hundreds of combat situations," she said. "I've led squads into ambushes, fought against overwhelming odds, watched warriors die beside me, but I've never been this afraid." "Because you're fighting for yourself now, not for orders." "Because I'm fighting beside you, and I don't know how to do that without—" She stopped herself. "Without what?" "Without wanting to protect you more than I want to survive." She stepped back, re-establishing distance. "That's the weakness Vrath is counting on. He thinks our connection makes us vulnerable." "Does it?" "Yes, but maybe it also makes us stronger." The door opened and Vrath entered with his usual entourage. He smiled when he saw them standing close, and Donovan understood they'd already lost this particular game. Vrath knew. He'd always known. "My favorite fighters," Vrath purred. "Are you ready for your exhibition?" "We're ready," Kasara said. "Excellent. I've arranged something special for the crowd. 4 opponents as promised, but with a twist." His smile widened. "If either of you falls, the other must finish the fight alone. Surrender means death for both. Victory means—" He paused, savoring the moment. 1 year of life for the survivor. Just 1. The implications crashed over them. Vrath had designed this to break them. Force them to choose between dying together or living alone. "You sick bastard," Donovan said. "I'm a businessman. The crowd wants drama, tragedy, impossible choices. You're going to give them exactly that." Vrath left, and Kasara's hand found Donovan's, fingers intertwining. "We both survive," she said. "No matter what he wants, we both walk out of that arena." "Agreed." The call came. They walked toward the arena entrance, still holding hands, and only separated when the gates began to open. The roar of the crowd poured over them like a physical force, 20,000 voices screaming for blood. The arena floor was bright under artificial suns. Across the sand, 4 gates opened simultaneously. 2 Vulhan warriors emerged from the east, both tall, both wearing Rocket's colors. From the west came the Krell berserkers, each one a mountain of chitin and rage. Donovan and Kasara moved to the center, positioning themselves back to back. "Remember the signals," she said. "Remember to trust me." The bell rang. The Krell charged first. No strategy, just pure aggression. Donovan broke right, drawing them as planned. Kasara went left, engaging the Vulhan warriors with a flurry of strikes that forced them to focus on defense. The first Krell swung a massive fist. Donovan rolled under it, came up inside its reach, and drove his blade into the joint where its arm met its thorax. The creature roared and backhanded him across the arena. He hit the sand hard, vision swimming. The second Krell was already there, raising both fists to crush him. Then Kasara was between them, her speed a blur as she severed tendons in the Krell's legs. It toppled sideways and Donovan scrambled to his feet, finishing it with a blade through its brain case. 1 down, but the distraction had cost them. The 2 Vulhan warriors had repositioned, and now they attacked in perfect coordination, the same squad tactics Kasara had once used. She blocked the first strike, parried the second, but the third caught her across the ribs. She went down with a cry of pain. Donovan charged, abandoning strategy for pure fury. He hit the nearest Vulhan warrior like a battering ram, driving them both into the sand. They grappled, and the warrior's claws opened furrows in his shoulders. Donovan headbutted him, broke his nose, and used the moment of disorientation to snap his neck. 2 down. He turned to find Kasara back on her feet, bleeding from her side, but still moving. She and the remaining Vulhan warrior circled each other, and Donovan saw the recognition in both their eyes. They knew each other. "Kasara," the warrior said, "surrender, I'll make it quick." "Come and try, Vorak." They clashed, and it was beautiful and terrible. 2 Vulhan warriors fighting with identical training, identical technique. Vorak was stronger, but Kasara was driven by something he couldn't match. She fought like someone with everything to lose and nothing holding her back. The last Krell recovered and charged Donovan. He sidestepped, but not quite fast enough. The Krell's fist caught his leg and he felt something crack. He went down, and the creature loomed over him. mandibles spread wide. Donovan looked across the arena and met Kasara's eyes. She was locked in combat with Vorak, unable to help. This was the moment Vrath had designed, the choice between dying together or surviving alone. Kasara made her choice. She disengaged from Vorak with a desperate maneuver that left her open to attack, took the hit across her back, and used the momentum to launch herself at the Krell. Her blade found its eye socket, and she drove it deep into the creature's brain. The Krell collapsed. 3 down, but Vorak had used her sacrifice. His blade was already descending toward her exposed back, and she was too off balance to dodge. Donovan threw his blade. It wasn't a perfect throw. His leg was broken, his vision was blurring from blood loss, and he was operating on pure instinct. But it was enough. The blade caught Vorak in the throat, and he staggered back, clawing at the metal embedded in his flesh. Kasara spun and finished him with a strike to the heart. 4 down. The arena fell silent. Then the crowd erupted, some cheering, some booing, all of them on their feet. Donovan tried to stand and failed, his broken leg unable to support his weight. Kasara limped to him, bleeding from a dozen wounds, and knelt beside him. "We did it," she said, her voice shaking. "We actually did it." "Both of us," Donovan managed. "We both survived." Kasara pulled him into her arms, and they stayed like that as medical teams rushed onto the sand. The crowd's noise faded to a distant roar. All that mattered was that they were both alive, both breathing, both together. In his viewing box, Vrath Keldon stared at the arena floor, his expression unreadable. He'd designed this exhibition to break them, to force an impossible choice, to create tragedy. Instead, they'd created something else entirely, a partnership that defied his expectations, a bond that made them stronger rather than weaker. He picked up his communicator. "Prepare the holding cells, separate cells, maximum security. I want them isolated until I decide what to do with them." But even as he gave the orders, he knew he'd miscalculated. The crowd had seen 2 fighters choose each other over survival, had seen them win against impossible odds through trust and sacrifice. He'd meant to destroy them. Instead, he'd made them legends. In the medical bay, Kasara refused to leave Donovan's side while they treated his broken leg. The medics tried to separate them, citing protocol, but she bared her teeth, and they quickly reconsidered. "You threw away your advantage," Donovan said as they set his leg. "You left yourself open to save me." "And you threw your only weapon to save me," Kasara countered. "We're both idiots. We're both alive. For now, Vrath won't let this stand. He'll find a way to punish us. Then we use Jarek's communicator. We take the option he offered." Kasara was quiet for a long moment. "If we run, there's no coming back. We'll be fugitives for the rest of our lives." "I know. The sovereignty will hunt us, track us. They don't forgive traitors." "I know that too." She took his hand, her claws retracted, her touch gentle despite the violence they'd just survived. "Then let's run," she said, "together." Guards entered before he could respond, moving to separate them. Kasara snarled, but Donovan squeezed her hand. "Do what they say. We'll find each other again. I promise." "You'd better keep that promise, Deathworlder." They dragged her away, and Donovan watched her go, already planning their escape. They had 1 year of life, according to Vrath's decree, but Donovan had no intention of spending that year in chains. They'd won their freedom in the arena. Now they just had to take it. 3 days in isolation gave Donovan time to think. The cell was smaller than before, reinforced, triple-locked, no windows, no communication, nothing but the sound of his own breathing and the ache of his healing leg. On the 4th day, the door opened. Kasara stood there, flanked by guards but unrestrained. Her wounds had healed, leaving fresh scars. She looked thinner, exhausted. "You have 1 hour," the guard said. "Vrath's orders." The door sealed behind her. Kasara crossed the cell and kissed him hard. Donovan pulled her close, and for a long moment they just held each other. "I thought he'd keep us separated," Donovan said. "He did, until this morning." Kasara pulled back, her amber eyes bright with hope. "Vrath called me to his office, offered me full reinstatement, my rank back, a command position, everything I lost." Donovan's chest tightened. "What did you tell him?" "I asked the price. He said I had to renounce you publicly. never speak to you again." She smiled fiercely. "I told him to go fuck himself." "Kasara, I'm done being what they want me to be. Done following orders that get people killed." She pulled the communicator from inside her armor. Jarek's communicator, somehow smuggled past guards. "We're leaving. Tonight." "How?" "Yarek's people have been planning this since our exhibition. The crowd loved us. We're symbols now, proof that the sovereignty's caste system is a lie." She activated the communicator. Jarek's scarred face appeared in hologram. "You're ready?" he asked. "We're ready," Kasara confirmed. "Good. At midnight, there'll be a power failure in your sector. 30 seconds until backup generators engage. That's your window. Turn left out of the cell, follow the service corridor to the loading docks. We'll have a transport waiting." The hologram died. Kasara sat beside Donovan, her hand finding his. "Once we do this, there's no going back. We'll be fugitives, hunted for the rest of our lives." "Where will we go?" Yarek mentioned a colony on the edge of sovereignty space, Haven's Edge, independent systems, mixed species, places where 2 fugitives could disappear. She paused. Places where a Volhan and a human could build something new. "Something new," Donovan repeated. "Like what?" "I don't know, a life, a future, something that's ours." She leaned against his shoulder and they counted down the hours until midnight. When the lights failed, they were ready. Kasara moved first, her night vision superior. Donovan followed, his leg protesting but functional. The corridor was pitch black. They turned left, voices shouted behind them, guards discovering the escape. "Faster," Kasara hissed. They burst into the loading docks as backup generators engaged. Light flooded the space, revealing a small transport with its ramp down. Jarek stood at the entrance, plasma rifle in hand. "Move," he shouted. They ran. Guards poured into the loading dock. Jarek laid down covering fire, and Kasara returned it with a rifle she'd grabbed. Donovan made it to the ramp first and turned to provide cover. Kasara was 3 meters away when the shot hit her. She went down hard. Donovan didn't think. He charged back into the firefight, grabbed her, and dragged her toward the transport. Plasma bolts scorched the air. One caught his shoulder, spinning him sideways, but he held on. Jarek met them at the ramp, helped haul Kasara inside, and slammed the control. The transport's engines screamed. "Go," Jarek shouted to the pilot. The ship lifted off, punching through the arena's shields and into open space. Donovan knelt beside Kasara. She'd been hit in the leg, blood pooled on the deck. She gasped. "You're not fine." Donovan pulled medical supplies from the emergency kit. "You're bleeding everywhere." "Then stop the bleeding, Death Worlder." He worked quickly, using field medicine skills. Kasara's claws dug into his arm, but she didn't cry out. By the time he'd finished sealing the wound, the transport had cleared the planet's gravity well. Jarek crouched beside them, offering a canteen. "That was closer than I'd like, but we made it. You're free." "Free," Kasara repeated. "What do we do with freedom?" "Whatever you want," Jarek said. "Haven's Edge, about 2 weeks' travel. They don't ask questions, don't recognize sovereignty law. You'll be safe there." "And you?" "I'm going back. There are others in the arena who deserve freedom." He stood, wincing. "But before I go, your exhibition is spreading through the networks. People saw you fight together, saw you refuse Vrath's choices. You've become something bigger than yourselves." "We're just 2 people trying to live," Kasara said. "Maybe, but sometimes that's enough to start a revolution." 2 weeks in transit gave them time to heal, time to plan, time to simply exist without the constant threat of death. The transport was small but comfortable, and the crew gave them privacy. Donovan's shoulder healed quickly, his Death Worlder resilience accelerating recovery. Kasara's leg took longer, but she worked through the pain. They spent their days training in the cargo bay, keeping skills sharp. They spent their nights tangled together in the crew quarters, exploring each other with the freedom of people who no longer had to hide. "What will you do on Haven's Edge?" Kasara asked one night, her head on his chest. "I don't know. I've been a soldier, a mercenary, a slave. I've never just been myself." "Who is yourself?" "I'm still figuring that out." He stroked her hair, fingers gentle on her ears. "What about you?" "I was raised to serve, to follow orders, but that's not who I am anymore. I'm someone who chooses her own path. She lifted her head. I'm someone who loves a human death-worlder, and I don't care who knows it. You love me? I thought that was obvious. Say it anyway. She smiled, and it transformed her face. I love you, Donovan Hayes. I love your stubbornness, your courage, your refusal to accept defeat. I love the way you see through my masks. She kissed him softly. I love you, and I'm terrified of what that means. It means we build something new, Donovan said, together. Together, she agreed. Haven's Edge was everything Jarek had promised. A sprawling colony on an asteroid cluster, populated by species from across the galaxy. No central government, no caste system, just people trying to survive. The transport docked, and Donovan and Kasara walked down the ramp into their new life. The air was recycled but clean, the corridors filled with a dozen languages. No one stared, no one cared that a Volhan and a human walked hand in hand. They found a small apartment, 2 rooms, basic furnishings, a window looking out on the stars. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. That night, they stood at the window together, watching ships come and go. What do we do now? Kasara asked. We live, Donovan said. We wake up tomorrow and figure out what that means. We find work, make friends, build a life. Just existing? He pulled her close, his hands settling on her hips. Maybe more than existing. She turned in his arms and kissed him, and it tasted like freedom, like possibility, like the future they'd fought so hard to claim. Somewhere far away, the sovereignty was hunting for them. Somewhere far away, Vrath was plotting revenge. Somewhere far away, the arena continued its brutal shows. But here, in this moment, in this small apartment on the edge of known space, none of that mattered. Donovan Hayes and Kasara had survived the arena, survived the sovereignty, survived everything designed to break them. They'd won their freedom not through violence alone, but through trust, sacrifice, and the stubborn refusal to accept the roles assigned to them. They'd proven that a Death Worlder and a Volhan warrior could be more than their species, more than their pasts, more than anyone expected. They'd proven that love could exist in the darkest places, that partnership could overcome impossible odds, that 2 people willing to fight for each other could change everything. And now, finally, they had time to discover what came next. Together,